Help keep Kinks and Beats Daily ad-free and receive bonus content early with a contribution of 20 cents per episode. Visit herohabit.com/shop for more information. Welcome to Kinks and Beats Daily. I'm your host, Tony Fry. This is episode 110, and it's a good one. Today we're talking about the song Uncle Son, which was released November 24th, 1971 on the Kinks album Muswell Hillbillies. Now this album, and we'll get to it when we do a full album episode, which might be our next Kinks album episode. This album, to me, it's one of my favorite albums by any artist. It's definitely one of my favorite Kinks albums, and I would say, and I have made this argument with people before, it's a contender for their best album. It is the most cohesive statement they made, definitely to that point. It's stylistically, it's kind of alone among Kinks albums, because this is a very country acoustic focused album. Even the songs that are electric driven are still kind of acoustic driven, and you know, the guitar tones aren't as crunchy and hard rock as they were on the previous album Lola, or as they're destined to be at the end of the 70s. And this is one of those albums that I think everything about it is perfect. To me, the color palette on the cover, which is very, rust and brown and dark oranges and stuff, in that picture of the pub, to me, that color palette is the color of the music on this album. And I'm not synesthetic or anything that I know of, but I do, when I hear this album, I hear it in the colors of that album cover, which doesn't happen often. I don't hear Sgt. Pepper in the colors of, that Technicolor album cover. I don't listen to Lola and hear it in black and white like that cover. But this one, the cover matches the tone of the music perfectly, and also the layout of the song, the sequencing of the songs, the looseness in the band. They sound like they're playing in a pub, and they sound at certain points like they're getting a little bit more drunk as the night goes on. Like things start getting a little sloppy and everything, but the music, it's just fantastic music. And one reviewer said that this was the the quintessential Ray Davies statement. And I totally see it. It was a signature statement that came from Rolling Stone in their album guide in 1984, where they gave it 5 stars out of 5 stars. Stereo Review magazine said that it was the album of the year. I mean, it's critically acclaimed. It didn't do anything. It barely charted in America. Didn't chart at all in the UK. But it is the statement of Ray's constant desire to speak on behalf of the working class. And Uncle Son, I think, is maybe one of the best working class lyrics, if not on the album, potentially in the entire catalog. He was just a working man, simple rules and simple plans, fancy words he didn't understand. He loved with his heart, he worked with his hands. And then we get, so that's a beautiful opening phrase. But then we get, liberals dream of equal rights, conservatives live in a world gone by, socialists preach of a promised land, but old Uncle Son was an ordinary man. Bless you, Uncle Son, they won't forget you when the revolution comes. Unionists tell you when to strike, generals tell you when to fight, preachers teach you wrong from right, they'll feed you when you're born and use you all your life. Bless you, Uncle Son, they won't forget you when the revolution comes. That is just beautiful prose, for starters, and then, really nails down everything. And like, this is 1971, and this is just as relevant today. The disparity between the ruling class and the working class has not gotten better. in the 50 years since this album came out. It's an interesting song. Has some beautiful organ work, has some beautiful slide guitar work, some kind of creative drumming, and it's a departure for Ray from what he usually does. So the whole song's in a very slow 3. So we're going 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and all right, and then he does slip a bar of maybe 4. It might be a bar of 1/8. I can't tell. So we've got he was just a working man, too. Simple rules and simple plans. Fancy words he didn't understand. He loved with his heart. He worked with his hands. All right, and then when we get to the chorus, and this is cool, this is the creative drumming, is Mick doesn't play it as if it's a 6/8, which would be very easy. It'd be very easy to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. He plays it. He hits the snare accenting on beats 2 and the upbeat of 3. So we're going 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and, which is kind of cool. So he's not doing a simple like where it would turn into like a kind of a goofy waltz. You know, he's still providing that kind of rock beat to it, but because he doesn't have a 4th beat to hit, you know, usually the snare would hit on 2 and 4. He doesn't have that 4th beat when you're in 3, so he's pushing it as close as he can to that 4, and totally avoiding it becoming kind of a cheesy 3/4 pa kind of sound. But then we get to the chorus. Bless you, Uncle Son. They won't forget you when the revolution comes. So that's a bar of 5. So we're going 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and 1. Which is cool. You don't hear, excuse me, you don't hear Ray playing with time like that very often. And to do it on this slow, very thoughtful song is very cool. And the way Dave accents this time change, where he really uses that slide guitar to pull you back to 1, you know, with that little slide back into 1, highlights the 5, but you could also listen to this and never really notice. And in a lot of ways, the way they perform this song makes it almost absent of time. You know, because like the chords are changing on 1 and 3, but Mick is accenting on the end of 3, and then you got these random bars of 5. Like it's like they were trying to keep it a little bit ambivalent, but it's not totally. To me, this song always sounded kind of like The Band, or when the Stones try to do country music, but they do this so much better than the Stones. And we talked about this like 2 episodes ago when I talked about the Kinks' ability to cover other genres and styles without sounding like an English rock band trying to do country or an English rock band trying to do music hall. They sound like a country band on this record. Right? They are hitting the right overtones and stuff like that to make this a country song. And if you would have told me that this was an American song by an American band, I think it holds up next to the contemporaries of the time. It's the penultimate song on the album, and I love it because it's a great slow lead into the title track, Muswell Hillbilly, which serves as like this great up-tempo finale. So we've got this real slow, almost dirge-like song. and then it ramps up, and then Muswell Hillbillies, the next track, starts with that build up, builds up, and that build up coming out of this slow dirge is just masterful sequencing. This whole album, I think this is going to have to be the next Kinks album we cover, because this whole album is just so good. If you are listening as a Beatles fan to this podcast and have never heard Muswell Hillbillies, the album, go listen to the whole album today. I encourage that. It is such a good album. And it's not a typical Kinks album, like I said. It does tend to lean a little bit country, but it's country with that British pop sensibility. So it's, there's still a lot of hooks and stuff like that. This is not cheesy in the least. So that's Uncle Son. Definitely give it a listen. It's up on the playlist. If you go to Spotify and search for Kinks and Beats Daily, you will find a playlist that's got all the music we've covered this week, plus everything in previous episodes. But I update that on Monday morning so that you can pre-listen to songs before the podcast comes out. And of course, you can swing by herohabit.com under the podcast button. There's a link to Kinks and Beats Daily, and it's got all sorts of information about how you can contact us, other articles, a full directory of all the episodes all the songs we've covered, separated by album, as well as a way for you to contribute to the podcast and keep us ad-free. Thank you for those who have done that. There is a bonus episode coming soon, I promise. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow for episode 111. Have a great day. This podcast is presented by the Hero Habit Podcast Network. Swing by herohabit.com today to comment on this episode and poke around our growing database of sports and pop culture news, reviews, and collectibles. herohabit.com. Collect your heroes.